Radio. This is the Reverend Dr. Gilberto Rosado. Dios lo bendiga. Este es Reverendo Dr. Gilberto Rosado. Welcoming you to another broadcast. At this hour, we have our bilingual broadcast, our teaching in English and Spanish. So we ask that you be patient as we translate live on the fly between languages. Esta es la hora que damos la enseñanza en inglés y español y pedimos que tengas pues paciencia mientras que traduzcamos de un idioma al otro. Aproveche y aprende el otro idioma. While we're at it, you can learn the other language as well. Es un beneficio de sintonizarse con nuestro ministerio. It's a benefit, an added benefit I should add, of tuning in to our ministry. Hello everyone and welcome. Thank you for joining us today. Today we are engaging in part 6. Hoy empezamos el parte número 6 in the Holy Series, en la serie de los santos. ¿Qué es el significado de santo? La palabra santo. ¿Qué es santo? Actualmente o en realidad, mejor dicho. Actualmente quiere decir hoy día, ¿no? Pero en inglés actually means de verdad. ¿Qué es la verdadera significado de santo? All right, so that's what we're studying. What is the actual meaning of holy? And before we begin today, antes de empezar hoy día, quiero repasar unas cosas que hemos dejado suelto durante los pasados enseñanzas. So there are a few loose ends that were left unresolved during the past few teachings. So I wanted to start today with those things. And first of all, understand that a lot of times, I'm doing this really on the fly. Yo estoy dando estas enseñanzas de, ¿cómo se llama eso en español? Así de momento, ¿ok? No es que yo he preparado muchas cosas y muchos libros, no. Esto, lo que estoy hablando no necesita eso, right? Okay. Porque estos son cosas simples, porque son cosas más o menos que caen en la zona de comprensión de lectura y de razonamiento. So I was just saying that, these are things that I'm teaching on the fly. I'm natural with this. These are things that I know. And the subject matter really is not a profound thing. If it was a profound thing, it would be a different matter. But really, these things are not issues of profundity of Scripture. See? These issues are issues of reading comprehension and then of reasoning. Simply. Reading comprehension, reasoning. If it was a matter of deep theological study, that would be a different matter. But it isn't. These things are not a profound spiritual teaching. This is simply a historical analysis of originations of words. Where did they come from? This is an issue of reasoning. That's all it is, reasoning, and then reading comprehension. I spend most of my time, I tell you, I spend most of my time straightening people out on the Reddits and on the Facebook groups, atheists and Christians alike, and other, Hebrew this and that, and whatever religious people out there. I spend most of my time dealing with reading comprehension and reasoning and not really theological questions. Simply, that's the bulk of the confusion out there. It's really, you should have went to school and studied. So that's really what I find all the time. If it was that I was dealing with people at a scholarly biblical level, it would be a different matter. But most of the argumentation out there at the moment is not biblical scholarship. It's actually reading comprehension issues and lack of reasoning skills, basically. Así que lo que estoy encontrando, estos asuntos así, mayormente en la población, en Facebook, en los diferentes medios sociales donde yo hablo mucho, enseño y me comunico con personas de otras ideas, otras filosofías, otras religiones, no son cuestiones de teología. Son cuestiones de lectura bíblica, comprensión de lectura y razonamiento. Y así que casi todas las polémicas, los debates que yo veo en línea en los medios sociales no son cosas bíblicas. Traen la Biblia, se involucran con la Biblia, pero el problema no es la Biblia ni lo que la Biblia dice, es la capacidad de las personas comprender lo que lee, lo que dice, y además de eso, entonces el razonamiento, que incluye bastante amplitud, incluye estudio, investigación, etcétera, muchas cosas. Pero básicamente es el problema de la gente. No importa, no es asunto de hacer análisis, de hacer búsquedas. Right? It's not an issue of doing research. Because everybody do research, do your own research. But the thing is, if you don't have good reasoning skills, what good is the research going to do to you? You were confused before, and then all you're going to do is confuse yourself even more, because you don't know how to distinguish the facts from, opinions and conclusions made by the person writing or stating something. El problema es que mucha gente no sabe distinguir entre los datos, lo que es verdadero, cierto, y lo que la persona, el autor, el que hace el video, el que hace el libro, interjecta o añade, concluya y opina de los asuntos. Y ese es el problema, que mucha gente oye la opinión de una persona y creen que eso es la evidencia. Como una vez que alguien mencionó un rabino judío muy conocido en estos días, y que él critica mucho de lo que los cristianos dicen o enseñan. Entonces, una de las cosas que él hace, toda la gente dice, eso es la evidencia. Oye, este rabino que da la evidencia que esto está así o así. Entonces, lo que dice en el video de evidencia es de que lo que dicen los cristianos, eso es ridículo. Eso es la evidencia, que el rabino dice que eso es ridículo. Ese es el problema que tiene la gente. ¿Sí? Es un ejemplo. Porque como el rabino dice que es ridículo, eso es la evidencia. Eso es estupideces. ¿Okay? Él puede llamar eso ridículo. Yo llamo a todo eso estupideces. So, there's a story I just told in Spanish that, there's an example. Because this rabbi, I forget his name, it's well known in the circles of anti-Christian apologists. And the people were saying, you have to listen to this rabbi. He has incontrovertible proof and evidence. And so I go and listen, because somebody says, oh, see this video, it has the proof. So I go there and look at it. So everyone's saying, and I read the comments, everyone says, oh, thank you, Rabbi. Thank you for this evidence, for this proof. You really nailed it. This and that, blah, blah, blah. And I listened to the rabbi. The only thing that he said about the Christian teaching that everyone said was the evidence, was the proof, was that's ridiculous. I said, oh, so because the rabbi said that it was ridiculous, that's the evidence? So again, it's just that people have this, just nonsense way of thinking, and they want desperately to defend the way they believe, and they will just take any breath of fluff or straw man, those who know apologetic, straw man arguments, just to prop up their faith. Thank you, Rabbi, for that teaching. And I thank him too for it, because it helped us here today. So in any case, this is the problem that I see most often. I see it in atheists as well. I'm not clobbering the atheists. By the way, I tell them, continue, go ahead, headstrong, because the farther you go, you dig deeper and deeper, we'll go there. The problem is when you get to the end. So wait for it. Así que, yo también con los ateos, yo no soy en contra de los ateos. Yo le digo, siguen excavando, excavan. Es cuando llegan al fin. Eso hay que esperar el fin para ver todas las cosas. All right. So in any case, this is the issue. And then when I point out the fact that they're not reasoning right, and I point out that they're making some reading comprehension errors or weakness in their comprehension skills, all they do is get defensive. If you're an intelligent person, we don't get defensive. We simply re-examine the evidence, or whatever evidence, if there's any, that we're being sent or presented with, and we show, 2 plus 2 equals 4. But this is not what that evidence is saying. It's just simple. We don't get defensive. We get instructive. An intelligent person becomes instructive. Okay, not defensive. We don't have to defend. We just need to instruct, especially when something is wrong, obviously. Now, when something is right, if you present to me something that you're right, I'll tell you, oh, you know what? I didn't know this before. I would tell you. You taught me something today. I did not realize this, and this exactly answers this, and it fulfills all the reasoning, places in reasoning that need to be filled in order for someone of reason to say, hey, this is very credible and very possible, and all the data seems to support it. So, reasonable people are accepting of reason. Right? We don't need to be defensive. Simply, we are educators. So, whenever you see someone being defensive only, and then it then becomes the labels. Oh, you're this, you're that. The labels are a cover-up. That's not an argument. Empiezan la gente, el que no es inteligente, pues empieza a poner nombres, apodos sobre los demás, y ustedes son así o así, esos no son argumentos de razonamiento, esos son defensas. So whenever you see someone defending themselves, this is just Roman Greek, this and that, like a lot of these Hebrew guys would use. That's Hebrew Greek thinking. They just throw this out there, and again, this is irresponsible. It does not help. It doesn't help your posit. Esto no ayuda su creencia. Es como decir, oh no, esos son del diablo.
Y la gente que creen así son del diablo. Y esos son estupideces. Y eso es del diablo. You see, the problem is that when we start saying that, this is of people who are diabolic, people who say that are sons of the devil, and this and that. But accusing the saints is something that the devil does. That's for sure. You're just claiming something, but the Bible says that what you're doing is definitely a sign of the devil. See, and that's where people, they've always fall into these traps because they're not dealing with presenting the truth in a correct and proper manner because they don't have it. That's why, because once you know the truth, you become a teacher. You become a holy man because you are teaching. You become like Jesus Christ, who taught, even though they were attacking him. He didn't attack back and defend back. He presented teaching, even though they were trying to trap him. He gave them teaching. See? And that is the response from an intelligent person who has the truth. Eso es la respuesta de una persona como Jesús hizo. Él no atacó a sus atacadores, right? Él contestaba con enseñanza. Y eso es la manera, you know. I ask questions. I'm still waiting. Now this is 14 days. And I'm still waiting for a question to be answered from one of our Facebook friends. And still nothing, okay? I give them the benefit of the Holy Week. We just passed it. We're going through the Passover. So, okay. But it's still 7 days before this Passover even started. And no answer still. Right? And again, and no acknowledgement either. Y no hay tampoco reconocimiento. Eso lo sufre todos. Judíos, hebreos, hebreos querellosos. Y también a hispanos, evangélicos y pentecostales y de todos. No admitan cuando están en error. Ese es el problema. Ese es el problema. So, todos estamos defendiendo nuestra posición. Everybody's just defending their own position. You know, at least give me the benefit. Yeah, I'm telling you these things, right? You know, give me the benefit. At least I'm frank enough and honest enough to be talking about these things. I'll hit the Pentecostals any day of the week. Yo le doy a los pentecostales cualquier día de la semana. Cualquier evangélico, any evangelical, I'll hit them too. I'll hit the Roman Catholic. Yo le doy a los católicos romanos. You know, yo le doy a quien merece ser dado. I hit whoever is worthy of getting hit. Because when something is wrong, it is simply wrong. Period. Doesn't matter who said it. You know, I'm not going to sit around like all these people in cults. Oh, there can be nothing wrong from the faithful slave, or whoever the leader of the church's organization. It's ridiculous. Es ridículo decir o pensar que el líder de la iglesia no tiene falla y esto otro. Come on, let's get out of that ridiculousness. Lord have mercy. You know, it's important que tiene fallo el líder. It's important that the leader has some weakness. You know why? Because that makes it on you. It puts the weight on you to get up your butt, take the sunglasses off your eyeballs and start doing your research and start learning something. Porque es así que ustedes se levantan y estudian por sí mismos y leen y buscan. Right? The Bible tells you, retener lo bueno y dejar lo malo. God says in His Bible to take the good and leave the bad. Because it's always going to be there. The human element is always there. I make mistakes when I'm talking. Because when I listen to my videos, I go listen to my videos when I have a chance. And I said, I could have explained that a little better. Hay veces que yo me escucho, yo podía haber dicho eso un poquito mejor, you know, que como lo dije está como, no le pegué a donde estaba supuesto pegar, bien pegado, ¿no? So that happens, porque I'm not reading a script. Yo no estoy leyendo un libro, right? See, if I was writing a book, si yo estaba escribiendo un libro, yo tengo chance, que yo he ayudado a otra gente a escribir libros. Y yo he leído para corregir errores, para ajustar lo que dijeron aquí, quizás. Pero eso es con tiempo. Uno se sienta un día y entonces, vamos a pensar, vamos a volver a ver otra vez, vamos a seguir leyendo, a ver. Entonces otro día, otra semana, vuelvo a leer otra vez y a ver si esto en realidad es lo que se quiso decir, explicar, etcétera, etcétera. Eso es con tiempo, pero así de momento uno así hablando, siempre viene cosita, el cuerpo está como con ansiedad, o tengo que ir al baño, whatever, hay cosas, hay gente que están enseñando, están enfermos, right? Y de momento pues el cuerpo dice, hoy tengo dolor, esto, otro, y eso va, influenciando un poco el detalle o la habilidad de detallar bien y estar enfocado bien. Aún el presidente de los Estados Unidos no sabe dónde está, right? Pero eso es otra cosa. So, you have, as you're teaching and you're speaking, everybody, human beings have we're human beings. We got things going on. Our intestines are saying, yeah, I'm over here working while you're talking, right? Taking it easy. And there's a lot of things happening in people. Different people have different things and some different ailments and pains, or maybe there's some distraction. Oh, I'm easily distracted. If there's a noise or something, that'll, or somebody. Have you seen me here on my videos? Ustedes me han visto mucho en mis videos. A veces tengo aquí los niños. Sometimes I have the kids right here. Oh my goodness, this is a disaster waiting to happen, right? Es una desastre esperando suceder, right? Cuando los niños están, y a veces tú me ves haciendo así, right? Pero ya tú sabes que alguien aquí está haciendo algo que no deben estar haciendo, right? Que me interrumpe. So, eso es. Y ya después de eso, yo no sé dónde estuve. And after that happens, I'm usually lost to where I was, what I was talking about. So that happens often with me. Así que eso sucede conmigo muchas veces. So, like I said, that's the way it's supposed to be. Esa es la manera que está supuesto a ser. Porque de todos modos, el que tiene la responsabilidad de investigar, it's supposed to be that way because at the end of the day, the one with the responsibility to investigate, to do research, is you, the audience. Son ustedes los que tienen que investigar lo que uno está oyendo, lo que uno está leyendo. Right? It doesn't fall on me. I do my best, but I am a human being. Yo hago lo mejor, pero yo soy humano. I'm a human being. So, again, that's the context. Eso es el contexto de todo lo que se está haciendo y todo lo que se dice. So, don't get on, like right now, some atheist responded to a video I did in the car. And he said something which typically would be attacking what I said, right? So typically they would say, this is just like all the other evidence for God. It's just gaps, distortions, and all of that. So, that's the way they responded. So I responded back. I said, my kids say the same thing. I won't tell you what I told. But basically, the problem here is that this morning, somebody else makes a comment on that video. And you know what they tell me? I asked the other guy, if you can come back with something of substance. You don't agree with something, then come back to me with something that we can talk about. Don't just say it's distorted and gaps and this and that. But then you know what someone else told me? He said, if it is the video, the audio in the video is not good. It's broken up and all that. So you see? So now someone gave me information. Yeah. So that's the difference. Somebody gave me information. What's actually the problem? Entonces una persona ateo me criticó. Yo lo vi como crítica, porque es típico crítica de ateo. Oh, esto es como la evidencia de todos los cristianos, que hay sitios vacíos, ¿cómo se dice? Hay gafa y hay distorsionamiento y cosas así, que tú puedes entender que eso es una crítica de lo que uno está diciendo, que esto no tiene sentido, que esto bla bla bla. Entonces le dije ciertas cosas y le dije, respóndeme con algo que podemos hablar y dialogar, un punto. Pero no estoy hablando que todo eso. Pero entonces otra persona esta mañana me dijo por comentario que es que el audio está dañado del video. Ahora habló bien, habló con claridad lo que está pasando, you know? So esas cosas pasan, right? So now I understand why the first guy said what he said, but he didn't give me reasons. You see, it's just, and this whole goes into the whole point. Is that in most of the apologetics, most of the people defending their beliefs don't give reasons. They don't give reasons. They just criticize. And they're ready to attack and criticize you as a person or criticize this thought or that thought, but they're not giving reasoning, you know, because 2 + 2 = 4. And guess what? Christians believe that. And not even believe. Christians know that. Evangelicals know that. Muslims know that. Buddhists know that. Hebrew this and that's know that. And Jews know that. You know, everybody knows. I think even Pharaoh knows that. See, because that's truth. And when you present truth, then that's it. And how does the false things go away? When other people also engage and search for the truth. But if you're just defending your posit, your religion, then this is never stopping. It doesn't end. And all you're doing is maintaining ignorance. La gente solamente, si no se busca la verdad, ¿cómo decir? Nosotros tenemos que buscar la verdad. 2 y 2 son 4, y eso lo conoce todo el mundo. Faraón, los hebreos, los judíos, los cristianos, los pentecostales, los budistas, los musulmanes. Todo el mundo sabe que 2 y 2 son 4. Si hay un extraterrestre, va a saber que 2 y 2 son 4. Porque esa es la verdad. ¿Sí? So, si tú tienes la verdad, explica. Right? But you have people who are not able to explain. Hay gente que no pueden explicar. Porque las explicaciones que dan no son de razón. Because the explanations they give are not reasoned. They're not reasoned. And then the people, and maybe it's also possible that the people that are engaged in this conversation are not reasonable. Because that's also a possibility. Es posible que la otra persona no tiene razonamiento, no están razonando. See, but the guy who's talking about this is me. You know, in terms of everything having to do with this ministry, these teachings, I'm the one telling you this. So, yo soy el que estoy hablando de estas cosas, de este ministerio, de estas enseñanzas que yo doy. Yo también hablo de estas cosas, right? Because that's the only way you can check for veracity. Es la única manera que tú puedes verificar la veracidad de lo que se está diciendo. Is that you actually begin to learn how to reason. You know? Que usted actualmente aprenda cómo se razone. Para entonces entender, bueno, entonces vamos a poner estas dos cosas y vemos cuál tiene la razón. Y aceptarlo. Porque eso necesita coraje. Necesita valentía. You know, you have to be brave to analyze these two opposing viewpoints and to admit when your viewpoint falls short, and then follow the truth. See? And that is not wholesale. Just because a guy from Hebrew roots said that, hey, God gave Israel the Torah. That's right. God gave Jews the Torah. So that's it. I'm going to be a Hebrew roots guy. These things are not wholesale. Just because one thing they said is true doesn't make it all true. Like, if that's the way you go about it, then the devil with Eve, that's how he did Eve. Because he said, he didn't lie to her. El diablo no mintió a Eva. He told her a truth. Él le dijo una verdad. See that? He said, you shall not die. Right? He said, you shall not die, but you shall know evil and good. He was right. Right? In a way. He told her half a truth. It wasn't the whole thing. Right? But it's the details, right? Those are the details. That's why the phrase says the devil is in the details. Por eso dice el refrán que el diablo está en los detalles, porque lo que el diablo dijo una verdad, pero no le dijo los detalles. Los detalles donde estaba lo malo, lo que Dios había dicho. Y la razón que Dios le había dicho esas cosas, eso no lo dijo el diablo, ¿no? Pero Eva, the problem here though is that Eve took it wholesale, right? That's what she did, and that was her mistake. El error de Eva era tomarlo por bruto, o sea, por, sí, se dice a por mayor. Lo cogió todo, ¿sí? Y se metió de lleno. Y eso era el error de Eva en sí. Es que ella se metió de lleno a desobedecer a Dios. Siempre tenía que haber, well, Dios dijo que no. Siempre tenía que haber una templanza, which we're going to talk about today as well, is that she should have had temperance. And that's what she lacked. And that's the biggest problem. That's what most people are lacking today. And that's actually going to be in today's lesson, actually. So that's good. So there you see the intro. Yesterday's class, by the way, fantastic. We showed what is holy about Sabbath. So if you are curious about what is holy about Sabbath, you should really see yesterday's Sabbath class. And to know what is the holy in Sabbath, what makes it holy. So that's a good one for all of them are great, but yesterday I did cover that topic for anyone, and we will be going into it if it's not next Sunday, it will be the following one, definitely, because it's down on the listing. Okay, so loose ends. Other than that, loose ends is let's go real quick to we were looking for the Bible verse talking about sweet in the mouth and bitter in the stomach. Remember that? Estamos buscando las otras semanas de algo dulce en la boca y amargo en el vientre, right? And then at the end of the program, I couldn't find it just off the bat. Then the reason for that, and I'll explain why, but I realized it when I did go and see it, was that the place that it says that it would be bitter in the belly wasn't in the Old Testament, and I try mostly to use Old Testament resources when I do teach. Mayormente la razón que no pude hallarlo la otra semana es que yo siempre trato de siempre usar más los textos o referencias en el Antiguo Testamento. So that is why I couldn't find this reference, because in el Antiguo Testamento, in the Old Testament, it only talks about half of this, the sweetness in the mouth, and by a large degree, twice. I believe I think Ezekiel and Jeremiah, God tells them to take the scroll and to eat it. Dios le dice a Jeremías y a Ezequiel que toman el rollo y comenlo, right? And they both express, or he tells them it will be sweet in the mouth, or dijeron, or they said it was sweet in the mouth. Ellos lo tomaron en su boca y era dulce, lo dijeron o se le dijo que iba a ser así. Lo amargo en la barriga solo se encuentra o mayormente está en revelación en el Nuevo Testamento. So in the New Testament, in Revelation you have Revelation 10:9, and I'll show you all those who are on the screen enabled. So you see Revelation 10:9, it says, "And I went unto the angel and said unto him, Give me the little book. And he said unto me, Take it, and eat it up, and it shall make thy belly bitter, but it shall be in thy mouth sweet as honey." So that sweet as honey in thy mouth with the scroll, it's the same thing that is found in Ezekiel and found in Jeremiah. So esas dos cosas de que está dulce en el paladar se encuentra en Jeremías y en Ezequiel. Los dos hicieron así y era dulce el paladar, la palabra de Dios, right? El rollo. Pero solamente en este lugar, en Revelación, en Apocalipsis 10:9, se encuentra lo amargo en el vientre. And so that was the reason that I couldn't find it very quickly at the end of the lesson, whichever lesson it was, could have been the last one. So that covers that need there. La otra es de Efraín, la borrachera de Efraín. The other one is in Isaiah 28, speaking about the drunkenness of Ephraim. The whole point in this verse was to show, and that's where we are starting also today, that what the purpose of teaching is, what the purpose of Torah. Torah is teaching, is instruction. La Torah es instrucción. ¿Y cuál es el propósito de la instrucción? So, what is the purpose of teaching as it is revealed in Torah? Right? And so Isaiah 28, I used this verse. I was referring to it, but I wasn't able to show it to you at the time I was talking about it. Was that God criticizes, or more so, he is describing the situation. No que Dios critica aquí a Efraín, más que está detallando, describiendo la situación. Now, remember, when we're talking about Ephraim, we're talking about one of the tribes, right? Cuando estamos hablando de Efraín, hay que recordar que estamos hablando de uno de los tribus. So what does that mean? It means the context of being a tribe of Israel, el contexto de ser un tribu de Israel, is that they have the law, they have the instruction, they have Torah. So es que tienen la ley. Tienen Torah, tienen la instrucción de Dios, right? So it's important that we realize this, because now when we see that God is detailing the problem, it starts to, everything falls into place. We have to be very careful. Tenemos que tener mucho cuidado. This is a part of the reasoning skills that people need to develop, which I have proven, that they don't have, because there's so many and arguing about this and that, and they show no quality, no level. Well, a level, but not sufficient to figure things out. And this is very common. They depend on their pastors, depend on their churches, depend on their religious books to make do, but they really don't understand. La gente depende mucho, yo lo he comprobado, depende mucho en sus rojes, en sus maestros, pastores, libros religiosos para pasar, pero en realidad no tienen la capacidad de razonar que deben de tener. So this is why I point these things out. If there's anything we do, we're trying to show you that these things are here for a reason. Torah, instruction, right? We already know what holy means. Torah es instrucción. Ya sabemos qué quiere decir Torah, right? Torah es instrucción, que quiere decir santo, perdón. Que santo también quiere decir instrucción, but es algo, una calidad distinta, ¿no? So here you see in Isaías 28 que Dios empieza a hablar de Efraín. So here we see in Isaiah 28 verse 9. Now see, understand, they already know Torah. Esta gente conocen Torah. They know Torah, arguably better than most people today. Argumente, o se puede decir, ¿cómo se llama eso? Discutiblemente mayor o mejor que cualquiera persona hoy día, judío incluido. Estos conocían Torah y estaban más cerca a todo lo que Dios estaba haciendo, lo que Dios había hecho, todo eso. They're more closer than anyone else alive today. So come on. Esta gente estaban viviendo en los tiempos más cercanos a la realidad de las cosas bíblicas, ¿no? Entonces, ¿qué es lo que dice Dios a ellos? What does God tell them? Or talk about them, okay? So they have instruction, but then he says, whom shall he teach? God is saying, whom shall he teach knowledge? And whom shall he make to understand doctrine? Now he's talking about, listen, but he's talking about who is going to teach him. The priest and the prophet have erred through strong drink. And verse 7, they are swallowed up of wine. They are out of the way through strong drink. They err in vision. They stumble in judgment, right? For all tables are full of vomit and filthiness, so that there is no place clean. Whom shall he teach knowledge? And whom shall he make to understand doctrine? Right? So again, what it's saying is that there is no understanding here, right? How is he? To whom he's going to teach knowledge? ¿A quién le va a enseñar conocimiento? Right? Because they lost it. They don't understand. They don't have an understanding themselves. So again, and then you see in verse 10, el 10 dice, for precept must be upon precept. Right? And this is the criticism, actually. Aquí está la crítica de Efraín. Okay? So I don't want to go too much into this, but realize that this is a criticism being levied against Ephraim. And the criticism is that Ephraim is knowing that it is precept upon precept, right? Precept upon precept, right? So entonces the criticism of God is very clear here. So Torah, precept upon precept, precept line upon line upon line, here a little there. This is referring to the law, to the instruction, to the teaching. See, that they know. And that they always say, precept upon precept, it has to be like this, like this, like this, like this. Yet, look at what you're doing. Así que Dios está criticando a Efraín por tener la palabra, tener la ley, tener este conocimiento, pero entonces, y saber que es precepto sobre precepto, precepto sobre precepto, línea sobre línea. Aquí viene en el verso 10 de Isaías 28, esa línea. Porque eso era la manera que ella enseñaba. Pero entonces, so God is obviously, so the point of this is that it's not enough to have Torah. In other words, the instruction has a purpose. No es suficiente tener Torah, sino que hay un propósito en Torah, en la instrucción. So there's a purpose for instruction. It isn't just for instruction's sake alone. La instrucción no es por la instrucción solamente. I'm going to give you examples of this and you're going to realize, oh yeah, I didn't realize that. You're going to realize this. Instruction is a method. La instrucción es un método. You know, it's just people should learn something in college. You really should go to college. Hay gente deben de ir a la universidad, apréndase algo. You know, you have so many people, they go, maybe they finish high school, maybe, and they're all out there talking Bible and all this, están todavía hablando Biblia y que lo que Dios dijo, lo que Dios quiere decir, come on. Pero no están reconociendo, but they don't recognize the order and structure that God is giving in instruction. They don't understand that when the Torah says, the Torah means instruction, they don't understand what that means. Si la Torah quiere decir instrucción, ¿qué quiere decir eso? Okay. Cuando tú estudias la filosofía de la educación, when you study the philosophy of education, you begin to learn what people need in order to learn things. Usted empieza a entender qué es lo que la mente de la gente necesitan para poder aprender cosas. If you learn this method, if you learn the process, si tú aprendes ese método y esos procesos, hay varias filosofías de metodologías, pero cuando tú dominas esa ciencia de la educación y tú miras aquí lo que está diciendo y esta cosa de Torah, usted va a entender que la Torah tiene un propósito, o sea que la instrucción no es la instrucción, no, el fin de la instrucción no es la instrucción. You will begin to see that if you studied and understand what education is, you'll understand that the instruction isn't the goal of instruction. Instruction doesn't have its goal as instruction. Now, change instruction to Torah. Torah doesn't have Torah as its goal. Change Torah to law now. The law doesn't have the law as its goal. See? We said the same thing 3 times in 3 ways that were distinct, right? But they're not, because they're the same. Torah is instruction. That's what Torah means. La Torah quiere decir instrucción. Si tú cambias la palabra Torah para instrucción, entonces la instrucción no tiene el fin de instrucción, de la instrucción. Cambia la instrucción a ley. La ley no tiene su fin en la ley, right? No es el fin. So again, this is the misunderstanding that a lot of people have because they just don't understand, education. They don't know what education is really. They don't understand that Torah is instruction. They say it, but they don't understand what that means. It means necessarily that the end of Torah, and what do I mean by end? I'm not talking about that it is ended or in terms of abolishment or is no longer. No, it's the purpose. You see, but if you're educated, you would know that, and not start up a 10-hour debate if the law was ended or not. The point is that it has a point. It has a goal, a purpose, as in holy. Holy, separate for a special purpose, right? This is his holy Torah, separate for a special purpose. What is the purpose? ¿Qué es el propósito? Las cosas santas tienen propósito. ¿Cuál es? See that? What is it? What we find that most law-keeping people, faiths, they focus on the law. They don't focus on the goal of the law, on the purpose of the law. No se enfocan en el propósito. Los que guardan la ley o enseñan la ley no se enfocan en el propósito de la ley, sino en qué es la ley. They don't look for the purpose. And the reason for that is because they don't know it. And why don't they know it? Because they've been taught that the only thing they need to do is to follow the law. Like they say, obey the law. And I'm going to give you that word. I'm going to look into that word because I already know what it really means. That's another series there, but I will touch it probably Saturday in the Sabbath class. We're going to touch a little bit about that because people don't understand. People don't know the truth of the origin of these words. La gente no entiende la origen de esa palabra, obedecer, obediencia. No entienden la originalidad de esa palabra. Because that will, when you realize what the word actually is saying, you will then, everything, all of this will click right into place. Todo esto va a caer, boom, right into place. Es una afirmación de lo que estamos diciendo. It is an affirmation of what we're talking about. So again, this is what we need to make sure that we're understanding. Let's go into scripture. So that was the issue of Ephraim. The point of education is not, and I'm going to give you an example. And that's where we need to go to now. Le voy a dar un ejemplo. I'm going to give you guys a good example. Now, think back with me. Let's go back. Let's turn back the clock of time. Do, 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 do. No, I don't mean do, do. But, you know, a little sound. Vamos a volver al tiempo atrás. Ustedes recuerden en matemática. Do you remember a math class? Did you ever go to one math class? Were you there? I mean, were you paying attention? Estaba poniendo atención en el clase de matemática. You remember something? Boy, man, I've never seen this since the class. Yo nunca he visto estas cosas desde esa clase. You ever remember the multiplication tables? ¿Usted recuerda las tablas de multiplicación? Remember that? ¿Qué eran las tablas de multiplicación? What were their multiplication tables? What were they? Give me a biblical word for what were they. Dame una palabra bíblica por lo que eran las tablas de multiplicación. What were they? Right? Well, one word you could have used was it was the rules. This was the rules. This was something to, and what did you do with it? What did they tell you to do? ¿Y qué te dijeron hacer con esas tablas? Memorizarla. They told you to memorize them. Now, does that sound like the law to you? Esto suena como la ley y los de la ley dicen no. And the people that follow the law, keep the law, say no, it don't sound like the law to me, Lord. Because they will always deny when the light is shown on. Cuando la luz se enciende, siempre van a negar. See, and the thing is, they're denying reasoning. You don't have to accept my point. It's just reason it. Solo tienen que razonar las cosas. No tienen que aceptar lo que digo. Razona. ¿Eh? Ellos dijeron que había que memorizarla. They told us that you had to memorize it, commit it to memory. So again, what was the purpose of memorizing the times tables? ¿Qué era el propósito de memorizar las tablas de multiplicación? Now, a lot of people would say so that you can learn how to multiply. Mucha gente dirán que para aprender cómo multiplicar. And, you would be right. Usted sería correcto en decir así. But did the tables actually teach you how to multiply? La pregunta entonces es si las tablas en sí te enseñaron a multiplicar. And the answer to that is no. La respuesta a eso es no. Las tablas de multiplicación no te enseñaron multiplicar. The times tables never showed you how to multiply. It gave you discipline of memorization in order to give you familiarity. Eso lo que te dio era una disciplina para familiarizarte con la multiplicación. It's intended to give you familiarity with the process or the function of multiplication. And what does that mean? It means that the whole point, how many of you, before I go there, how many of you actually memorized all of the table? ¿Cuántos de ustedes actualmente o en realidad memorizaron toda la tabla de multiplicación? I know that most of you didn't do it like that. Some may have, but okay, but we'll go step by step. But many of you didn't do that actually. Some of you, even less amount of you, but some of you, a lot of you didn't do it for being lazy. Let's talk truth here. Muchos de ustedes no lo hicieron por ser vagos. Vamos a hablar. Pero también una minoría empezaron a reconocer los patrones. A group of you began to recognize patterns. The moment you started recognizing pattern, I'll go with the simplest one that really should have been easy, the easiest one for you guys to get, right? Which was like the 10 times table, right? Very easy. Or the 1. We don't have to go 10. The 1 is the easiest one, isn't it? Or 0. But let's start with 1. 1 times 1. 1 times 2. 1 times 3, right? When you began to, wait a minute, to see whatever the number is, 1 times 7, 1 times 8 is 8. You weren't multiplying. You recognized the pattern. Usted cuando aprendió 1 por 6, 1 por 7, 1 por 8, usted empezó, algunos de ustedes empezaron a pensar, a razonar y empezaron a decir, si dice 7, 1 y 7 es 7, 1 por 8, 8, 1 por 9, 9, no, ni sin pensarlo, 1 por 3, 1 por 33, 33. Usted, it became automatic. You didn't have to think about it. Empezó a ser automático. No tenía que pensarlo. Entonces 2 por, entonces 3, y dificultades se ponían más difíciles, ¿no? Pero tarde o temprano empezaba a desarrollar un dominio de los patrones de los números, y del proceso, ¿no? So after a while, you got the 2 times and the 3 times and the 4 times, but after a while you began to have familiarity. Usted empezó a desarrollar familiarizón. So ya tú sabías, 3 por 7, 21, ya lo sabía, right? Pero también usted empieza después desarrollar una familiaridad con el proceso de la multiplicación. Y eso es la matemática. That's when you get to the mathematics, is when you left the table of multiplication and you begin to reason, to think, to calculate, and you go and you know the patterns, right? And so now to go to the end of the issue. Who of you out there still use the table of multiplication tables? Who of you, adults, ¿Quién aquí entre los adultos usan hoy día la tabla de multiplicación? Right? Is anyone got a job where, except for a math teacher? But anyone, and that's a good point though, but hold on to that. Hold on to that. Anyone here have a job where you have to use the multiplication table? Alguien aquí tiene un trabajo, menos un maestro. Vamos a aguantar a esa idea un momento. Pero alguien aquí tiene un trabajo que necesita usar la tabla de multiplicación. ¿Sí? Was it intended for you really to memorize for the rest of your life? ¿Fue el propósito? Was that the purpose? El propósito de la tabla de matemáticas era que tú tenías la tabla de matemáticas toda la vida. No. The purpose of the rules, like in all math, this is the same in all the sciences as well. The purpose of the rules is to give you a framework for learning. But once you learn and you recognize patterns and you're able to you manipulate the numbers and come out with true results, right? You don't need the table anymore. You don't need the rules because they become inherent, right? They become something that is understood, that you dominate, you have dominion over. That is the purpose of teaching. El propósito de la enseñanza y de las tablas era que tú desarrollase dominio sobre la materia. Y eso es verdad en cualquier ciencia, cualquier de las ciencias, de las áreas de conocimientos humanos. Es que tú desarrollas dominio. ¿Sí? No que tú te seas subjuga a ello. And it's not that you are subjugated to them. I'll give you another example. It's like words. Like you see me here. You see me at times use words. You see me play with words. Usted me ve muchas veces jugando o manipulando con palabras. The reasoning for that, I use it because I use them as the multiplication table. Yo uso palabras como la tabla de multiplicación, como un equipo, un medio de enseñanza. I use words as a teaching tool. So I will make up words. I will misuse a conjunction of a word. That's not the way you say that. That's not the way it's done. I know that. But I use it for its educational purpose, not in English. I'm not teaching English. I'm teaching something else. So I will make an emphasis on a word and put words together, like perdominosis. I created that word. Yo creé esa palabra perdominosis. Es una palabra que yo creé para traer una enseñanza. So I created a word because I'm not subjugated to language. Yo no estoy sujeto a el lenguaje. Yo domino lenguaje. I dominate language. Okay? So I'm able to use and recompose language at will for a special purpose. Yo domino el lenguaje para un propósito especial. So that's how I use language. Now again, to be able to do this, you really need to dominate language. You cannot be just ho-hum about language like most people are. Because you didn't want to read the books. You don't want to write the essay based on things you read. All of these things that you had to do in school was to make you dominant in language skills. And to be able to reason and put things together and not to be stuck underneath, but to be above. and to create new things, to advance the human race. You all have that opportunity, but no. Así que, la intención de la educación era que tú dominas la materia, leyeras los libros, compusiera los ensayos, escribiendo papeles y muchas hojas de explicar y comprensión y explicación para que usted dominara la comunicación, el idioma, y entonces podía avanzar la raza humana y avanzarnos a más descubrimiento, a más conocimiento, más entendimiento, pero no quería usted hacer la tarea. All right. So you see, this is the struggle of man. That's right. PS 111. Public school, man. That's it. That's the universe right there. We're done. Okay. El universo está ahí en la escuela pública. Eso es, estamos terminados. Okay. Esto es, no hay esperanza. All right. So the point is that, most people, like most kids, they don't want to do the homework. La mayoría de personas no quieren hacer la tarea. And you guys stay that way for the rest of your life. Absolutely. You don't want to do the tarea. I'm going to tell you. You don't want to do the homework, and the rest of your life you will not do the homework you need to do to be ahead. That affects you for the rest of your life. You have set yourself in stone. You might as well die, and you can write on the stone, I won't make it any more than this, because actuality, that's a fact. Usted en la vida, en la escuela pública, usted no quiere hacer la tarea, no te esfuerza a hacer el trabajo, pues así va a ser en toda su vida. Y usted puede morirte ahí mismo y poner en la tabla, porque así mismo terminas. El resto de su vida va a ser limitado a ese momento, a esa realidad. That's why kids should be given all that they can get and exposed to experiences, because all of it is learning. There's really no dumb kid. It's only dumb kids when they're limited to their educational resources. That's the truth. And I'm not speaking about funding schools with all the money in the world. No. It's not about giving schools more money. It's about opening the schools to life and to the world, because the kids are being kept in four walls, and they're not experiencing the world with the math and the reading and all that. So that's why those trips going out of here and there with the class, they're so very important, but they're so little, because we got to teach in this and they got in the test and all that. So the school system's a little bit, it's fragmented in terms of education. It's fine-tuned for what they're doing, but it's really limited education, and the effect is seen in society, right? Nosotros vemos el efecto en sociedad. They do produce workers. Schools, if you don't know this, schools are designed to create workers. You have to understand this. Las escuelas están diseñadas para crear trabajadores, empleados. ¿Entienden eso? Okay, so you don't get confused. The issue about becoming a businessman and becoming this or having success in your life is not something basically that the schools are helping kids with. They're not teaching them financial things, right? No le están enseñando cosas financieras. You come out of school, you're really just stuck to go get a job, and that's basically what the school was designed to do. When you come out of school at any age, you say, I need a job. That's what the school was supposed to do. You might as well get a high school diploma right there, because basically that's all the high school diploma was going to make you prepared for. And now these days, it wasn't like that in the old days, but in these days, what a college degree. College degree only helps you go get a job. It doesn't guarantee the job. So that's it. So if your destiny, if your inner energy and inner self is more than just being an employee, you have problems going through school. Usted va a tener problemas yendo a la escuela si tu energía, su interna, su ser interno tiene amplitud fuera, más allá que ser empleado de una compañía. Estas personas también tienen problemas en la escuela. So you have people have, and that's why I wanted to say this, the kids with difficulty in school, you know what it is that they haven't found where their energy is best funneled, and then they learn through that. It's simply that. The school doesn't give them that option. La escuela no le da a los niños opciones en cómo progresar para la educación, o sea, para ellos expresarse y ser educados. Because there's all types of things, activities that humans go and do, and all of them could use some education. You can pick pretty much any type of activity people do, and you can point to something that would need an educated mind to excel at that. A lot of stupid people do this, but actually also some very intelligent people can really do some great things in this area, you know, as opposed to the dummies doing this. So there's really, you know, and the dummies are doing this simply because they weren't afforded, they didn't, you know, the only education was affordable was for them to be an office worker or that other type of work or this or that. So that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that the schools are pretty much set to prepare an employee within today's vision of society. But there's other things that are not in today's vision of society that a child may be really antsy or would be interested in expressing their energies towards. Hay otras cosas que la escuela quizás no le está proveyendo que sería buena para la educación de un niño. Y en eso cuesta entonces o se descansa sobre los padres, mucho. I'm going to tell you this now, the parents have a lot to do with it, your decision making. Because if you have a child that's having issues in school, you really need to be thinking, what can I do for the family as a whole to help this child find expression, find something, and through that he can apply learning, and we can give him some learning using that thing. It's really an environmental issue. Es un asunto del medio ambiente, y los padres deben de ser sensitivos a esto. It's interesting because, you know, I see it in the children. We have adopted children and we have foster care children. Nosotros aquí tenemos hijos adoptivos y hijos de foster care. Y yo veo como tengo aquí, ahorita que vamos a hacer unos cambios, no por eso, pero it's a fortunate thing. Es una cosa afortunado también, porque veo que el cambio que vamos a hacer para este niño en particular que tengo sería tremendo para él y para cementarlo y para que tome raíces y aprenda a través de ese cambio. So I can see in one of these changes that we're just about to do, Lord willing, is already impacting a child that we have here in a very positive way, just by changing the environment. And now the learning impetus and connectivity to the person's environment is paramount. And once you find that then, you know, breaks off that friction with education and learning and builds then, you know, for understanding. That understanding can be had. We have a society that's sick. Tenemos una sociedad que está enferma, y está enferma porque no hay conexión con la educación y el medio ambiente. We have a sick society because we don't have, especially the young people ramming into the wall of society, of life, and they're not prepared because their education does not mesh with their environment. And their environment meaning, and also themselves, their inner self, they seem to be lost. And that's the reason you feel lost. It's the reason you don't know what to do. Es la razón que tú no sabes qué hacer. Tú oyes la juventud y dices, yo no sé qué hacer. Because that's the reason. They've been educating you to do something that you're not interested. And it's not part of your being. And there's other things that you may hear about, you know about. You feel that there has to be something, but it isn't afforded to you. Hay cosas que la persona se siente que hay, que debe o quiere hacer otras cosas, pero no sabe qué, porque estas cosas no ha sido expuesto a ellos en la educación, y solamente de educación para hacer una cosa de esta sociedad. Quizás quieren hacer algo más antiguo, algo más futurístico. Maybe they want to do something more ancient or something more futuristic, and we're tying them down and weighing them down, and the only relief is marijuana. Harold says, oh, come on, baby, everything's out of whack, isn't it? Todas las cosas están fuera de orden, vamos a fumar marihuana. Es todo lo que tienen, right? Todo lo que tienen, todo está revolcado. We're trying to figure out why is that. It's because you are not grounded. That's a fact. La persona no está fundado, porque todavía no se conoce, no sabe dónde están y qué hacer. Están como en espacio sin poder pararse en ningún lado, no están arriba, abajo, porque están desconectados. So they're disconnected. The inner self is powerful, and it has the power, enough influence in you to disconnect you from everything that's going on. Right? Disconnect you from the education, because it has nothing to do with what your inner soul wants to do. And has skill at and interest in and ability or attraction to. It's just no connection there. That's what's going on. And parents need to be more sensitive. It's not that your kid is stupid. It's that he's in the wrong environment. And that's really what you need to be looking at. And sometimes a change of environment would do well for a family who sees that their children are just not faring well. Sometimes they say one child is not faring well. Give him a whole different experience. Maybe sending him to an uncle, a family member, in a different living environment would be something that the child, go over there on vacation on summertime. Show him another place in the world, another lifestyle, and see how the child reacts to it. Is he attacking? Is he attacking it? Is he embracing it? And then you see that his spirit is wanting that environment because it makes sense. He can touch it. And that's where he needs to be learning, through that environment. So these are the things that we need to be looking at. Las cosas como un niño que tú lo llevas por vacación a otro sitio, o a una casa de un tío, una finca, lo que sea. It could be even a farm. Uncle's farm or something like that, and if you see that the child's really engaging the environment and really just they say, this is good, this is what I need, you need to be sensitive to that. So, he may learn better if he's in this type of environment. So this is the type of thing. I'm not telling everyone to go and start moving away from your city, or if you're on the farmland and start moving to the city. I'm not saying that particularly. I'm saying that you need to be sensitive to that. Give the kid a break. It could be that he's just not in the environment that he would excel in. And these are things that we need to have a conversation about how we manage our schools. We're far from being able to do it. I believe one day, if we don't blow ourselves up, it can happen, utopia, that the school will be everything for everyone. But at this point it isn't. We're limited. Schools are limited, and so this is what we have. Así que yo creo que en una utopía futurística es posible, si no nos explotamos antes de ahí, que las escuelas pueden ser situacional, amplio, para acomodar muchos ambientes y así a servir la necesidad del ser humano muy más ampliamente. And no matter how society continues, there's always going to be need for all types of environment inputs. So everyone is important. It's just that they need to be in their area, right? Todo el mundo es importante, y aunque progresamos nosotros, no invalida las situaciones, otras situaciones aún antiguas. Las cosas antiguas siguen, o las prácticas, los ambientes antiguos siguen. You know, we still have ancient lifestyles still in this world today. They still exist. And we have people pulling towards the futuristic ones, already insisting on futuristic ones, creating those for themselves. We have people doing that. So I think it's just that society hasn't woken up to the reality that, you know, we're not all the same, and that all of it is good, you know, and in terms of the environment in which which we need to develop and obtain learning from. So that needs to be had. But let's get out of this educational philosophy mode and get back into this issue. So, but we learned that in education, the purpose of the law, of the rules, is not that you end up with the law and the rules. That's the thing that don't make any sense for anybody in education. Para cualquier persona en educación no tiene sentido que la ley es el fin de sí, que la fin de ley es la ley. Es ridículo. And it's surprising, and maybe not, that there's a lot of Jews that are educators. This is the funny part of it. Hay muchos judíos que son educadores, and you can figure, whatever that, you know, what is it? Are we, so, you know, that's the dishonesty of it. And I'm not saying that Jews are dishonest. Don't get me wrong. No, that's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying intellectually dishonest. Because if you know as an educator that the whole point of these structures and these tables and this and that is for you to gain dominance in the subject matter, right? How is it that in your religious idea you insist that the end, the goal is the table itself? Right? That doesn't make any sense. But you see, religious perspective keeps people ignorant. See that? You see that educationally, the way they teach the law, or their paradigm teaching of the law, educacionalmente, usted ve que los maestros enseñando, los judíos y los que enseñan la ley, tú ves que ellos insisten que la ley sea el fin. Pero profesionalmente, los judíos que educan, ellos no insisten que la ley, las reglas sean el fin. So eso se llama deshonestidad intelectual. ¿Sí? Y lo que crea eso es la religión. So you see here, I'm giving you an example. This is science. This is education, and then you see religion. So it's a comparative analysis. It's how you reason. You got to see things. Usted tiene que razonar y ver las cosas. You know, this is not about a religious against religion and against religion. No, this is about sense. This is reasoning against religion, and it's against all religion. And it's the sense that you see here a real life example in the Jewish teachers there. We won't go into detail which ones are orthodox and which ones are. We're not going to go there. It's just the general state of affairs. But you see that a lot of Jewish people are educators, wonderful teachers, wonderful, and beautiful people. They're wonderful people. I have to say that because some people say he's anti-Semitic. No, I'm not. I love one of my best friends, Jewish, great people, number one. But the thing is that it's amazing that as educators, they teach so that people can progress and have understanding. Yet their religion, their faith, is apparently, and I say apparently because it really isn't, but the way they do it and the way they teach or they tell other people to do it, especially the Hebrew wannabes, is that the law is the end of the day. That's the beginning and that's the end of it. And that isn't education, right? Yet the Torah means instruction. So that's the dichotomy. That's the place where something's wrong here. And this is really what you should be realizing. Yeah, something is wrong here. Somebody got something wrong. And this is the basis for this, the reasoning why we're going through this exercise. Because you see it. There's a disconnect between Torah instruction, just like education, and what the religious perspective is on Torah. It doesn't match. There's something wrong. Right. Así que no machea aquí el hecho que los judíos en su profesión de educadores no están enseñando que la tabla de multiplicación debe ser el fin de la enseñanza de matemáticas. Ellos están diciendo que el dominio, el entendimiento, o como yo digo, el perdominosis de la matemática, eso es el fin, no las reglas. Las reglas son el medio, pero la religión es la perspectiva que mantiene la ignorancia, como estoy diciendo, muchas enseñanzas ya pasadas. Y eso es la prueba, usted lo ve claramente. So you see here a very good example of religious philosophy, of religion, freezing the mind of people and disconnecting and breaking, not just the covenant, because the covenant they did break, but breaking the truth of instruction, the purpose, and therefore making it unholy, right? Oh my, this is disastrous. It's disastrous. Esto es una destrucción. Porque si se rompe no solamente el pacto que hicieron, pues se rompe el propósito del Torah, entonces no es santo ya. No lo están santificando. So Torah isn't being hallowed, by this religious viewpoint. The religious viewpoint that the end of Torah is Torah itself. In other words, that you need to follow the law. The law is, and that's it. And when you ask for what's the purpose, don't question God. See? Don't question God. And it's not actually a question God, it's questioning your thinking. That's who we're questioning. We will question. Nosotros tenemos que confrontar esos pensamientos. All right. So, let's continue on in our text of holy. Let's go into the scripture here. I believe I covered all the points that we needed to cover. We got into the purpose of instruction. Now, the purpose of instruction. Let me go and just catch this here. What is this? Yeah, the purpose of teaching. So I just want to make sure that we're back where we belong. So remember, as a review, holy, as we discussed yesterday and built up until now, holy is special. I'm conjoining the human perspective with the divine perspective, and that's what we've been looking into. The human perspective, the Jewish scholarly perspective, is that holy means a separate for a special purpose. Right? Now, the issue is always that if it's for a special purpose, the question has to be, what is the purpose? If you know of something holy, and you don't know what the purpose of it is, then you are not in a holy situation, right? In other words, it isn't holy to you. I'll go like God, to you. It isn't holy for you. When something is not holy for you, see what happens? You hear what happens? When something's not holy for you, what's going to happen? My covenant they break. Cuando algo no es santo para ti, ¿qué es lo que sucede? Mi pacto violaron. ¿Sí? Lo que Dios dijo de Israel, mi pacto violaron. That's what happens. If you don't know the purpose, it can't be holy to you. And it won't be holy for you. So then you break it. This is the issue. Oh, Santo Dios, here you got me. Here we got it. Write it down. This is the reason Jehovah says in Jeremiah 31, 33 to 34, he tells them that I will make a new covenant. And I will write my law in their hearts. I will put it in their hearts, and I will write it in their, what is that? Yeah, I will put it in their mind and write it on their heart. So the thing is this. What is God doing with the new covenant? When he puts it in the mind. What is that? ¿Qué es lo que Dios está haciendo cuando pone su pacto en su mente y en su corazón? ¿Qué es lo que Dios está haciendo? He's cutting out the middleman. Dios está eliminando el hombre en el medio. ¿Y quién es el hombre en el medio? And who's the man in the middle? You are. Nosotros. He's cutting out the problem. And the problem was that the instruction was there, la instrucción estaba ahí, pero la falta de comprensión, but the lack of understanding is what's blocking the new pact, the new covenant. The new covenant was supposed to be what would have happened if they would have understood things the right way. El nuevo pacto es lo que tenía que haber sucedido si los judíos y los hebreos, Israel, hubiera entendido correctamente desde un principio. See? Because si no fuese así, if it wasn't so, what is the point of putting it in the mind and in the heart? Just put it on 2 tablets again. Because all we need is the law and to obey it, right? All we need to do is to see the law and obey it. Solo se necesita mirar la ley en las tablas y obedecerlas. Why is God making a new covenant and putting in the law into the heart and into the mind? Porque Dios está haciendo otro pacto y poniendo la ley en el corazón y en la mente. ¿Por qué? Because having the law, the instruction, and obeying it isn't the point. It isn't the goal. Teniendo la ley en tablas y obedeciéndolo no es ¿cómo se llama? La meta. No es el blanco. Esa es la palabra que estaba buscando el otro día. You know, lo que era el pecado es no dar al blanco. Right? So that's the, right? So no es el blanco, no es el punto. That's what people need to be understanding. They say, oh, it's a lack of understanding. This is what it's all about. So you see, by using the scripture, like looking at all the scripture, you begin to start seeing, oh my, but this seems to be the problem. Now, you don't see this unless, again, I see it. Why do I see it? Because I'm an educator and I'm a psychotherapist. I got two things going for me that make me see this thing clearly. Yo tengo dos cosas que me hace ver claro estas cosas. Yo soy educador y yo soy psicoterapeuta. So yo entiendo la mente, yo entiendo los procesos de la mente y yo entiendo la educación. I got two things, baby. Tengo dos cosas a mi favor que yo puedo ver y entender estas cosas cuando lo veo, lo reconozco. See, it's like when a doctor sees some certain things with his patient, he recognizes. Now, a patient would have seen this before and say, I didn't realize, right? Because you don't know. You don't know these things. But the people that know recognize when they see it. And so it's simply, we see in the scripture a pattern of teaching and a lack of understanding. It's still the same today. There's no difference. That's why things are still the same, right? Israel is still trying to follow the law. The Jews are still keeping the law, right? And everyone else is fighting about it. Nothing's changed, right? Nothing has changed because the same problem persists. But God has, however, what do we know as well? Okay? La misma problema sucede, ¿no? Que los judíos obedecen la ley. Los hebreos que quieren ser hebreos están tratando de hacer también guardar la ley y los demás están peleando sobre esto. Right. So nada es diferente. Pero vemos algo que Dios dio la solución. But God does provide a solution. And it's not a solution from the man's perspective. No es una solución de la perspectiva humana. The solution is only God's. God is the only one that provides that solution. La solución es solamente de Dios. Dios es el único que provee esa solución. And what is that solution? By putting in. So it's a different thing. It is. People say, well, there's no difference. The law will be the law. The law is the law. But there is a difference in what God is doing with people. Hay una diferencia, no hay diferencia entre la ley es la ley, pero hay diferencia entre las tablas de multiplicación y la matemática y usar y entender la matemática. So there is a difference between the multiplication tables and mathematics, right? And being able to think mathematically, right? So there is a difference when you know math, right? You don't need the table of the multiplication tables. Now, can you write them down? Yes, because you know mathematics. See the difference? So there is a difference, right? A quality difference. So, hay una diferencia porque el que conoce matemática puede hacer la tabla de matemática, de multiplicación. Él lo puede dibujar y escribir y llenar. No es por memorización. And not by memory either. Because he knows. You understand that? So, there is a quality difference. That's the difference. This is the reason that most people, you have to confess, even if you think that Gentile Christians don't follow the law, you have to admit that, you've seen it commented often, that 9 out of 10 of the commandments are followed by Christians, by Gentiles. Vemos que se menciona mucho que 9 de los 10 mandamientos sí los gentiles cristianos lo hacen, lo cumplen, you know. Right? So something went on there. We don't follow the law on tablets, but something happened, right? Nosotros no seguimos la ley en tablas, pero algo sucedió. Porque si yo estoy viviendo por, el judío puede decir con 9 de los 10 mandamientos, entonces algo sucedió. So if a Gentile, totally Gentile, is living as a Christian and pretty much in the judgment of a Jew, pretty much filling the 9 out of 10 of the commandments, right? Because their perspective, then something went on, because it's not like the Christian learned the 10 commandments. You know, we don't, you know, as a pastor, I don't teach 10 commandments in the church. It's not part of my teaching in the church. I'll tell you that. Yo le digo que no enseño los 10 mandamientos. Now, when we're reading the Bible and I'm giving a teaching, I have shown what the 10 commandments are. People know them. They heard of them. But it's not I'm telling Christians, hey, you got to go by the 10 commandments. No, we don't do that. Nosotros no decimos a la gente, a los feligreses, que tienen que hacer los 10 mandamientos. No. Tienen que vivir como Cristo dijo que se viviese, right? So we tell them we have to follow Christ. Not that he followed the 10 commandments. Simply that he gave instructions. You know, love thy neighbor as yourself and do this and that. And how do we know how to do that? Well, it's happening inside. It's the best thing I can tell you. So in case, it's not that because the pastor told me to do it. You see, no es que el pastor me dijo que yo tengo que amar mi prójimo que yo lo hago. Es porque mi experiencia cristiana, mi relación con Dios me hace hacerlo. No en formas que me enseñaron, porque no me enseñaron, lo pueden decir, pero cómo lo hago es individual. It's how, you know, they could have told me to do it, that God said to do it, but the reality is that I do it from my heart. You know, not because someone told me to do it, because I feel like doing it. My Christian walk, my Christian experience, you know, gives me an impulse to do something. I see somebody, you know what? You know, he can't stay that way. That's my Christian. That's not the Torah telling me to do that. I don't do it because Torah said it. I do it because I cannot walk by this man and just leave him there without helping. Yo no puedo pasar un hombre en necesidad por la calle y dejarlo allí. Eso no lo hago por Torah, porque alguien dijo eso es parte del mandamiento o que es parte de la ley. Yo no necesito la ley para hacer eso. You know, I don't need the law to help somebody in need. Simply, that is me. In another time, another place, in other circumstances, simply. Esa persona soy yo. En otro sitio, en otro tiempo, en otra situación. Simply, it boils down to being stupid if you keep walking by. Se degraniza hacer estupidez si tú caminas y lo dejas sin atenderlo, sin ayudarlo. Es estupidez. We're still back to it, aren't we? We can't get out. When you come to this broadcast, it's like stupid spot, dumb, right? Because you just can't get away from it. No matter what you read in the Bible, it still boils down to stupid and dumb. You know, stupid and knowing what it's right, intelligence, and being dumb, being stupid. Dumb is really no helping you, but stupid. Everybody's stupid to one degree or another. And the people of God said, Amen. Y la gente de Dios dicen, Amén. All right. So again, this is again, it's the main theme. It's always has been. Siempre ha sido el tema de la Biblia. Because the context of it, which we won't go back into again, you've heard it before, Genesis 1:1. And look at the context. Look at the world when God spoke to Moses. Look at what's happening all over the world. Realize that. Realize what God did. Realiza lo que Dios hizo mientras que le estaba hablando con Moisés. Mira el contexto del mundo entero. So tienen que entender eso lo que Dios está haciendo. All right, let's go into scripture here. Again, holy. Exodus 15:13, Éxodo 15:13, because we talked about the holy convocation, hablamos de la convocación santa la última vez. And here in Exodus 15 it says, Thou in thy mercy hast led forth the people, which thou hast redeemed. Thou hast guided them in thy strength unto thy holy habitation. And this is part of Miriam's song, if I'm not mistaken. Esto es parte del cántico de Miriam, que cantaron esto después que cruzaron el Mar Rojo y empiezan a cantar. And she begins to sing, Miriam, after they crossed the Red Sea, right? And Pharaoh's chariots all got drowned and all of that. So again, this is what she sang. Now, it's interesting, if you read the context, if you read this chapter, you will find she starts out a little different. So let's see how she starts out here. And those of you who are seeing 15, see 15, I have to read the whole chapter. Not the whole chapter, but I have to start at the beginning. So you can see how she begins this issue of the holy, of the habitation. Now look at what she says here. Now she starts singing. Then sang. This is Moses, because Miriam starts singing later, right? Okay, so let's see it. Then sang Moses and the children of Israel this song unto the Lord, and spake, saying, I will sing unto the Lord, for he hath triumphed gloriously. The horse and his rider hath he thrown into the sea. Verse 2, The Lord is my strength and song, and he is become my salvation. He is my God, and I, listen to him, and I will prepare him an habitation. Y yo le preparé una habitación. Yo prepararé una habitación. So here you see Moses singing that he will prepare a habitation for God. Okay? But then later you see Miriam start to sing, because Miriam sings the latter one that we saw, which I was correct in saying, right? And Miriam begins, and let's look at should be around here. Estamos mirando el cántico de Miriam, and that's at the end. Wait a minute. No, it wasn't Miriam then. It's still Moses. Wait a minute. Let's see. Un momento que estoy buscando lo que dice de la habitación. Let me just go back here, see what verse. That's 12 to 14. El 12 a 14. Okay. Right. Now, so you see at 13, and again, this is still Moses. Este es todavía Moisés cantando. This is still Moses singing. And he says, Thou in thy mercy hast led forth the people which thou hast redeemed. Catch this now. See that? It sounds just like he started. 13. Let's go back to number 2. The Lord is my strength. This is saying Moses 1. And he started saying, I will sing unto the Lord, for he hath triumphed gloriously. The horse his rider hath he thrown into the sea. The Lord is my strength and song. He has become my salvation. He is my God, and I will prepare him a habitation. Right? Then we go to 13. Thou in thy mercy hast led forth the people which thou hast redeemed. Thou hast guided them in thy strength unto thy holy habitation. So there are 2 habitations that Moses is talking about. Son 2 habitaciones que Moisés indica aquí. La primera es una habitación que él preparará para Jehová, su redentor. The first is the habitation that Moses said, I will make an habitation for him, right? But then in 13 we hear about God making his own habitation, bringing them to his habitation, right? So vemos que Dios entonces en el 13, Moisés está diciendo que Dios hizo y nos trajo a su santa habitación. So again, it's a beautiful song that he's singing, and it makes an indication of the perspectives that we were talking about in previous teachings. Esto da un poquito de la perspectiva, la enseñanza de la perspectiva que nosotros estábamos hablando ya en estos últimos partes de esa enseñanza. En hecho de que el hombre haga una habitación. And the fact that the man, or in this case Moses, is saying, I will make an habitation. The desire to make a habitation. All right, a place where God dwells. Another word for that could be religion. I'm going to make this place where you and me can be together. That's religion. That's another way of looking at religion. It's a place where we gather together. You're going to be here, I'm going to be there together. This is an habitation. So Moses is expressing a human wish, a human desire to have a habitation with God. But also then on the 13th verse is a recognition that there is a holy habitation that God already made. Vemos que en el 13 Dios ya tiene una habitación santa, and that habitation is holy. Remember what holy means. Okay, it doesn't mean that it belongs to God. It means that it is a teaching. See? So that you have to start understanding that the habitation, the salvation. Well, take it slow. Get some water. Let me take some water. You know, when you take some medicine, it's good to have some water to get down. Cuando tomas medicina es mucho bueno que tú tragas con un poco de agüita. But you see that God's habitation for man in the Jewish context, in the Hebrew context, en el contexto hebreo, la habitación que hace Dios, lo que Dios está haciendo, right? It's his habitation. Thou hast guided them, the people, Israel, in thy strength unto thy holy habitation. Usted ha guiado su pueblo en su poder hacia su habitación santa. Right? Recuerde lo que santo quiere decir. Remember what holy means. So, where did God bring his people? Where is he bringing his people? The first place he brought them to salvation. This is what he's talking about. So he has them in salvation. They were redeemed from Egypt. But also then he's taking them where? ¿Dónde van también? Ya ha sido salvado de Egipto, redimido de Egipto. ¿A dónde van? Van para el monte Sinaí. They're going to Mount Sinai. Okay? They're still on the trip. They're still coming out. It's not, the redemption wasn't the finishing part of it. They're still on their journey. And therefore still part of what? Si están en su jornada, todavía entonces están ¿dónde? So should I read it again? Let's read it again. Where are they still? If they're still on their journey, where are they? Thou hast guided them in thy strength unto thy holy habitation, su santa habitación, redimido de Egipto. They're still in the holy habitation. They go to Mount Sinai. Van entonces a Monte Sinaí, todavía en su santa habitación. Y entonces llegan a Canaán, a la tierra prometida, todavía su santa habitación. They go after that to what? To the promised land, eventually, right? Still, the holy habitation of God. That means that everything in that holy habitation is holy. Quiere decir que todo lo que tiene que ver con esa santa habitación es santa. Holy is the redemption from Egypt. It's holy. Santa es la redención de Egipto. Santa es lo que pasó en Monte Sinaí. Holy is also what happened in Mount Sinai, or what's going to happen here in the Bible, right? And holy is what's going to happen in the Promised Land, the Promised Land itself, and all that. Y santo es también lo que va a pasar en el tierra prometida, la tierra prometida en sí. Es santa. It's holy. We already know what holy means. God told us what it was. So it's a teaching. Everything from the redemption of Israel moving forward is a teaching. It's holy. It's within the holy habitation of God. Es dentro. Todo después de la salida de Egipto es dentro de la habitación. Not that the other stuff wasn't teaching, it's also, we weren't saying that. But the habitation with God. The habitation with God. See, that's the important thing. The habitation. It's this holy habitation. It's a teaching about the habitation between God and man. Or like the Israelites will say, but God and Israel, he's talking to Israel. These are Israelites, right? That's the point. The point is that it's holy. El punto es que es santa. And because it's holy, it is teaching. It is enseñanza, right? All of it is teaching. Todo es una enseñanza. So again, what are you supposed to do with all of it then? Are you supposed to say, I got a multiplication table, God gave me this? Tú estás supuesto decir que Dios me dio una tabla de multiplicación. Mira, una tabla de multiplicación. Mira, Look, I got a multiplication table. That's it. You can give me my college degree already. Right here. Yo tengo mi tabla de multiplicación aquí. Dame mi trabajo ejecutivo de tal compañía. Porque yo tengo este papel. Esta tabla de Multiplicación. I have my multiplication table. Give me that top executive job. We are the chosen people. Nosotros somos el pueblo escogido. Nosotros estamos en la habitación santa de Dios. That sounds great. We're in the holy habitation of God. We're the chosen people of God. It's a teaching. It's not the goal. Es una enseñanza, no es el fin. It's multiplication tables. It's intended to teach. Es una tabla de multiplicación. El propósito es de enseñar. See? So this is the issue here is that people are not understanding the Jews. There's reasonings for that. I'm not critical of the Jew more so than God is. Oh my goodness, is that terrible? I think it is. But hey, if God did what he did and said what he did, then it's okay for me to point out that my covenant they break. That's all. That's all. That's all. You gotta understand it. Rompieron mi pacto. Lo que Dios dijo. Yo digo lo mismo. Yo no critico a los judíos. Solo digo lo mismo que Dios dijo. Dios lo dijo. Violaron mi pacto. La cosa que hay que entender. The thing is that there has to be understanding. God is saying here, and Moses even is saying it, but does he really know what he's saying, right? Does he really know what it is he's saying? The ramifications. It sounds good. This is his holy habitation. But does he actually know that he is saying something that's describing a very, very deep, or at least, I don't want to say deep, but I'm saying a different, distinctful perspective than the one he's thinking of. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, because when he's saying holy, does he mean holy the way God means it, or does he mean holy, Egyptian holy, which was probably Semitic? Someone sent me I think they're watching my videos because someone sent me, after I said about what I said about the Semitic pharaohs that were probably there influencing Moses at the time, and the education in Egypt, they sent me a link to Torah.com, an article that came out where they talking more about the Hyksos pharaohs, which were the Semitic pharaohs in Egypt, and that time period, more or less, it coincides with certain natural things that occurred that match up with the Exodus story. So that they're saying that mostly it should have been the Semitic kings under which Moses was having his issue with. Así que, which goes with what I was saying, right? Where did Kadosh come from? So there had to be familiarity. There had to be, which is what I'm saying. So it's proof that, when you're watching this channel, you're watching these teachings, there is truth. Scholars are researching things that I'm talking about. Now, so that's good. So I appreciate that little link somebody put on that video. Aprecio el enlace que alguien puso a Torah.com con un artículo que salió recién sobre lo que estaba hablando del origen, o sea, de que los seméticos, habían faraones seméticos que son los mismos, la raza misma de los hebreos, pero que no eran, no era un grupo separado de Jacob, right? Eran diferentes en algún aspecto, dominaban a los egipcios por un tiempo suficiente para influenciar y lenguaje y quizás religión, Kadosh. So, vemos que lo que dije es exactamente la verdad y que los eruditos están estudiando estas cosas. So, ellos están diciendo que muy probablemente Moisés bregó con un faraón semético, que salieron de Egipto, y cuando salieron de Egipto decayó el reino semético en Egipto. Fue invadido por los egipcios nativos del sur para tomar arriba el norte. So, se ven las plagas, los desastres naturales en ese tiempo donde estaban los últimos que dirigían el norte de Egipto, que eran seméticos. So, so everything I was saying is absolutely on the money. And so again, what was he saying? The Kadosh, the Semitic Kadosh, the Egyptian Kadosh, right? But now, but according to what God teaches about Kadosh, and it is teaching. So he obviously, what the word is showing us is that everything is a teaching concerning Israel. Que todo lo que está concerniente a Israel es una enseñanza. All right, and let's see. Oh, there's another thing I wanted to show you as well. We're going to go to the New Testament for a minute, and we'll end it with this. The New Testament apostles, particularly Peter, again a Jew of Israel, right? Jew. He, guided by the Spirit, lists a gradual progression for the church or the Christians, Jewish or otherwise, that they are supposed to grow in this way. Esto tan supuesto crecer, estoy leyendo en segundo de Pedro, capítulo 1. Es un proceder de que todo cristiano, judío o no judío, tienen que proceder por un proceso. It says here in verse 4, this is chapter 1, 2 Peter, capítulo 1 de segundo de Pedro, verso 4. It says, whereby are given unto us exceeding great and precious promises, that by these ye might be partakers of the divine nature, having escaped the corruption that is in the world through lust. Right? So está hablando que a través de esas promesas nosotros podemos ser participantes de la naturaleza divina. So Peter, the Jew, he's indicating that there is a goal of sharing the nature of divinity, a divine nature, right? You don't see that in Torah, that goal, right? It's not expressed. See, the difference between the Old Testament and the New Testament is that the New Testament kind of like puts more light on the goal. El Nuevo Testamento pone como un poco más de luz sobre el propósito o la meta del Antiguo Testamento, de la ley. Eso es más o menos la diferencia. So, Pedro aquí en el segundo de Pedro, el capítulo 1, está dándonos la progresión. Fíjate. So he's giving us a progression. Again, another educational method. Steps. These are the steps. See? That's an educational method, right? You remember school? Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, right? The 10 Commandments aren't in steps. They are just the table of multiplication. Los 10 mandamientos no son pasos o procesos, son la tabla de matemáticas, eso es todo, tabla de multiplicación. Pero aquí ahora en el Nuevo Testamento vemos un proceso. So now the education is getting higher. We're getting more into higher education. Ahora estamos entrando en una educación más alta. And then and una meta más alta, and we see a higher goal than we saw in the Old Testament. So, and it says, and beside this, giving all diligence, add to your faith. See? Add to your faith. After faith, you have to add virtue, virtud. Añadir a la fe virtud. And to virtue, add another step, otro paso para arriba, conocimiento. See that? Now, the Ten Commandments is knowledge, right? Torah is instruction, right? And that was supposed to give them knowledge. But then, look at what it says. What comes after knowledge? Ten Commandments, it's giving us knowledge. Torah, it's giving us knowledge. That's the purpose of instruction. El propósito de la instrucción es darnos conocimiento, right? Pero ¿qué viene después del conocimiento? What comes after knowledge? And to knowledge, he tells us, temperance, templanza. Okay. So what is temperance? You guys are going to die when you see this. Not literally. You guys are going to flip when you see this. You try that one literally. What is temperance? ¿Qué es la templanza? So let's go and look at temperance. Now, this is a dictionary version. This is a Google definition. So you see, we're looking at temper. And it gives us the modern day usage. Temper, a person's state of mind. You know, if they're good, they're feeling good, they're feeling angry. Right? And again, if you look at this, the degree of hardness and elasticity in steel. You see, this is the problem when we're reading and looking for definitions in the dictionary. The dictionary only gives you modern day usage. Okay? Improve the hardness or elasticity by reheating and then cooling it. Right? And then that's a verb, and act as a neutralizing or counterbalance force to something. So here in this very last, and we see similar words to that. On that second verb, it's moderate, modify, modulate, tone down, mitigate, right? So it's like, oh, calm down, wait a minute, right? So you get that idea a little bit when you take everything together. You'll have to really work at it. But then if we go to the etymology, as you guys who are looking at the screen can see, let's look what temper means. Temper. Again, I'm using temper because it is the root word for temperance. It is the root word to it. That is the main basic word, and then we have to go back from that. Entonces, yo estoy usando, ¿cómo se dice eso? No sé cómo decirlo en español. Es como decir la manera que uno se siente. En inglés se usa la palabra, la parte temper, de la templanza. Y estamos buscando esa raíz. So, en inglés usamos también la palabra temper, pero en el uso moderno quiere decir enojado o calmado. So, la manera de estar, uno. Pero todavía es el uso moderno. Tenemos que buscar uso antiguo. So let's see what it says. Again, it tells you here, te lo dice aquí, you see, the due proportion of elements or qualities from temper, the sense of characteristic state of mind, inclination, disposition, is first recorded when? 1590. That's not when Peter was writing, you see? That's way later than when Peter was writing. Esto es mucho más después que cuando Pedro estaba leyendo. Of course, he wrote in his original language. It was written then in a Latin Vulgate, and then going to Greek or whatever. Of course. But it's the meanings. They try to get the meanings of what's being said. So, obviously, that can't be, the later meaning can't be where temperance has its basis from. So we still have to keep looking. So, as we look, we see again the temper as a verb is still reciting late sources for the meaning. But as you keep reading, if you keep reading, I'll read the whole thing. It says, late Old English temprian, to moderate, bring to a proper and suitable state. Now, if you start listening to the meaning, you start getting the idea. What is temper and temperance? Right? Because temperance is like a state. It's a subsistence of temper. It's a temperance. It's like a complete state of it, right? So from Latin temperare, observe proper measure, be moderate, restrain oneself, right? Also transitive, mix correctly, mix in due proportion, regulate, rule, govern, manage. See that? See where we see where it's heading? Yeah, you see, and the evolution from this to temper, meaning to make a metal, tone it and modulate. Now you start getting the root. Why did it become that? Because originally it's talking about governance and doing things that manage things and making things right. See? This is often described as from Latin tempus, which goes to time and season, making things right, governing, right? Spring, summer, fall, winter, things right in their time, right? Temperature, la temperatura, right? Governing, ruling. With a sense, but as the root sense of tempers seems to be, look at this, mira aquí, que la raíz del temp, ese raíz, you guys, if you're awake, you would be laughing already at this. Not out of laughter in terms of putting it as it's funny, but that unbelievable, because that should be your reaction right now. Eso debe ser su reacción ahora mismo, que esto es increíble, right? You remember what I was teaching about entender. What I was teaching the other day about understanding it in Spanish, Latin, understanding is entender, tending. And tending means to reach for, to reach up. Another way of saying reach up is stretching. You're stretching for the concept. You're stretching up towards it, towards what English calls understanding. The Latin is stretching up towards it, entender. The English is standing on the understanding. Remember that from last time. La última vez estaba hablando en inglés, entender es arriba aquí. Dicen parado debajo y parado encima. Esa es la palabra understand, parado encima. En español es entender, es agarrarle abajo, es alcanzar, estrecharse, estirarse para agarrar. para agarrar el concepto, que es la diferencia, porque el latín, the Latin, and again, it went to the Latin tempus, because this word comes from the Latin. So the Latin is the one that's giving us the basis for this understanding, for the understanding that it's reaching for. We have the words in the restrain, modify sense might be from a semantic shift from stretching to measuring, right? These are things of semantics, right? From stretching to measuring. Why do they call the temple a temple? El templo. También la palabra templo tiene temp adentro, right? So, very interesting. Esto es muy interesante. It's interesting that in Revelation, right, John measures. We talk about measuring things. Okay? Juan, el ángel le dice, mide, right? And then here, and we understand that the temp is the reaching and stretching, right? And it has to do with, at the end of the day, understanding. Because with understanding, esto tiene que ver con entendimiento, porque con el entendimiento uno puede ser templado. Right? It's understanding. In other words, what this is indicating is that what Peter here is talking about. And we know this, that after you have knowledge, then you gain understanding by applying the knowledge, by stretching the knowledge, by analysis, stretching, heating it, cooling it down. Everything we heard about there in about the temping and temper, right? It's having to do with knowledge. What does that have to do with knowledge? Because that is the understanding that you're supposed to get after knowledge. So add to knowledge temperance, understanding. And once you have understanding, then you'll be patient. And then when you're patient, then you have godliness. It's a process. But knowledge begets, is supposed to beget understanding. So as we see again, the process from Peter indicates that after knowledge comes after the instruction, right? Is given, the Torah, there has to be understanding. It's not Torah and you stay. He didn't stop. He's a Jew. He didn't stop at knowledge. Right? And he didn't say, where's obedience here? He doesn't have it here. But I'm going to tell you a secret. Le voy a decir, aquí no hay obediencia, no se ve. Él es judío, él quiere que la gente obedece la ley. He wants people to obey the law, right? But yet, he doesn't have obeisance here. Pero te voy a decir un secreto. I'll tell you a secret. Don't tell anybody. They have to come and watch the next program. It is there. And I'm going to show you next time we get together. Le voy a enseñar la próxima vez. Está allí la obediencia. Le voy a enseñar la próxima vez que estamos juntos. God bless you. God keep you. Saturday, if I don't have anything again to interrupt us, right now we're getting very close to things that's being disrupted. But if we're still able to, we will continue on the Holy Sabbath and continue on that on Saturday coming. And next week, again, given that we're not interrupted, we will go into I believe I'm going to do this a little bit of the obedience so that people can understand that. Because I think right now is a good time to get that rounded knowledge so that you can have what? Understanding. God bless you. Dios le bendiga a todos. La semana que viene, obediencia para que tengan entendimiento. Goodbye. Take care.